Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Aquavide Uskaba, fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton.
Slancha, and welcome, Whiskey Brothers and Sisters, to episode 44 of the Canadian Whisky Journey's Whiskey Review. I'm Dolph. I'm your host tonight. I'm joined by this gentleman right there. He is co-author to the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries and a perfect book to get for Father's Day. And you know what? I'm going to ask you about this with Okanagan Spirits as well, and the combination. We'll do that in a second. But first, sir, what are we continuing our Canadian Whisky Journey with tonight?
We are trying this bit of a gem that's hard to find as we're discovering Crown Royal Bourbon Mash.
Excellent. And you know what? I love the fact that we're celebrating this on National Bourbon Day for our friends down south.
Exactly.
Well, do you want to shed a little bit of light on what made this such a controversial bottle, please, kind sir?
Yeah, Seagram's was back in Crown Royal's infancy. This was one of the components in the blend, one of the flavoring components. They've been making it for eons. Back in the day when bourbon was really struggling after Prohibition, you'd see a lot of Canadian distilleries. Well, first of all, they could still make bourbon back then, or call it bourbon, I should say. Everyone was making these style of whiskeys, but they would ship them back and forth if there were stock shortages. No one batted an eye. No one cared. And all of a sudden, when this whiskey came out in 2018, a bunch of bourbon writers got really upset and jumped to the conclusion that Crown Royal was trying to capitalize on the bourbon craze. So they say that having this, even though it says blended Canadian whiskey, having the word bourbon mash was a flagrant offense and offended everybody. But it's hilarious. Yeah. So you have that. Yep. But at the same time, like you think of like Glenfiddich, 14-year-old bourbon barrel reserve, that gets a pass. You have Tomatin 8-year-old sherry cask and bourbon cask, that gets a pass. You have Glenrothes bourbon cask, that got a pass. But as soon as Crown Royal Bourbon Mash comes out, they're like, you know what, deport it and build a wall. So.
And a little bit of history. May 4, 1964, U.S. Congress declares bourbon to be uniquely American and that they would protect the designation. Soon thereafter, they created the TTB, so the Alcohol Tax Trade Bureau. And anything that gets put on the shelves in the States has to have COLA, and that certificate of label of approval. And you need to have it. But what's neat is this bottle had it. When it first came out, this was given the okay by the TTB. It did have the certificate. And then it was only after our writer friends brought up the issue and complained that they revoked it. But they were allowed to sell whatever was already on the market there. So there was some in the States, and people were claiming them. I don't think you're going to find any on the shelves down there anymore.
No.
It was rebranded. And now called Blender's Mash, rebranded there only, not in Canada, because we kept it because we're okay with it. And
well, the funny thing about that whole entire thing in 1964 was it was just after Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon B. Johnson, he wanted to have like this, this big Cold War thing start happening where he wanted to have American flags stuck into certain products and designations, and they went a bit crazy with it. And they came to the Canadians and said, "Hey, we want to say bourbon is now an intellectual property of the United States," and our government just went, "Yeah, sure, go ahead. Who cares?
Make yourself happy."
Yeah, and so that's how it kicked in, and suddenly. Everyone's now quoting this. Was it Class 12 or what's the rule called? Something.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Everyone became experts on this rule that you can't have that name on the bottle. But anyways, I digress because I think it's
I think
ridiculous.
But I
Yeah.
remember certain articles being a little bit tongue-in-cheek as well, but maybe just a little pointed as well. It's like they were making fun of it, but don't screw with us. They're making fun of
Yes.
it. Oh, it's all fun, but don't call it bourbon. Just
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
the feeling I was getting from, and that's okay. Whatever. We're Canadians. We're happy. We're appeasing. We'll change it there and keep it our way. And I'm sure they sold quite a few bottles, anyways. And the Blender's Mash is selling really well. The mash bill: 64% corn. I'll read it off here: 31.5% rye, 4.5% malted barley. Do you know if this whole thing is a mash bill, or is this just a part of a blend as well? Because if I
I
look at this, it says blended Canadian whiskey, so I'm assuming it's still part of the blend.
Yeah, I don't really know much about what it's blended with. I'm going to make an assumption that that mash bill was aged in different types of cask, like new oak. I'm going to guess mostly new oak and maybe some used bourbon barrels.
Yeah, that's what they
Um,
are. Yeah,
and then different ages of at least 3 years old, but probably older stock as well. And that was blended into this whiskey. That's my guess. If I
as
was
to the
gonna, if I was
determination
gonna,
of the blend. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I were to guess, but who knows? There might be something else in it.
All right. You know what? I've got two of these. I did it straight like I usually do, but bourbon for me often is with ice. The only
Hmm.
problem is, and I love the flavor and it's very refreshing. The only problem is you get nothing on the nose with the ice. It subdues everything, so you lose one of the senses on ice. But I wanted to do them side by side just to see, anyways. Uh, a bit more background information: 750 mils. If you can still get it in Canada, it's around $40. Do you remember how much it was in Ontario? Around
I think
there,
about
40.
that around $40, 39.95 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, though, this is a gateway bourbon. This is great for Canadian whiskey drinkers that want to kind of dabble a little bit in the bourbon world. And because Legend is what I suggest for people like a light whiskey that are thinking about bourbon, I think I might start suggesting this instead, because it's it doesn't have the bigger punch of the 50% bourbons but the flavor is there. Like, you get the
Oh
vanilla,
yeah.
you get,
Yeah.
well, you get the oak, obviously, you get the spices. It's all there, but it's a little bit more muted than the cast, not the cast strength, but the 50% that you kind of look for in the States. What do you think, though, on the nose? Anything else than spices,
Well,
vanilla, and
yeah, dried fruits, like the classic Crown Royal dried fruits, but there's also a bit of a floral note that I used to get off this whiskey a lot. Kind of like almost a lilac kind of thing, just because there's lilacs growing in my backyard, so it kind of reminds me
okay,
of that.
okay,
But I think all those like that spiciness, the vanilla, the dried fruits, and the floral tones are all this big contributor into making this one an excellent mixer as well. If you're making
yeah.
cocktails, and as you said, like just on ice, like it's just so versatile. You can do anything with it.
I'm gonna
And of
say
course,
let's
there's the fresh oak and that kind of thing.
yeah. I'm gonna go straight. I like it better straight. And I do. I like bonded bourbons. The 50% goes really well in ice, and that's why I do. And there's a couple that you can get at quite a reasonable price, because I'm getting a little bit stung by the bourbon prices right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Some of
they're
my
crazy.
favorites are, which I was paying $60 for at one point, are now 120, 130, 140 bucks. So
Yeah.
I this is a great substitute. And
Oh yeah.
the lightness of it's effervescent. It's refreshing. It's good, but I'm gonna stick with it straight. Do you get pepper?
I did.
You get
Yeah, the sort of a spicy heat, like a peppery kind of thing. Definitely.
I hesitate to
Especially
say pepper, though, because people think pepper hot. I'm going pepper
no, no,
flavor
no.
as opposed to
Yeah,
not
yeah,
hot.
like the
Right.
peppercorn type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a nice creamy corn characteristic to this as well.
Yeah. What type of sweetness for you? Are you going honey? Are you going kind of caramelly. I'm wondering.
I'm guessing, yeah, caramel, but also that fruity sweetness to it.
And the finish is medium short. It goes from sweet to a little bit of spicy on the back of the throat really quickly.
Yeah.
Like changes like almost immediately. But then the spice kind of sticks with you for a while. That's why I want to say medium.
Yep. No, I agree.
I'm enjoying it. And for those of you here in Alberta, when you see it on the shelves or anywhere else in Canada, because this is sold throughout Canada, if you still do see it on the shelf, I think you pick it up, because we haven't determined, you and I, if this is still being made or not. And I didn't think so, because I haven't seen it newly on the shelf.
No, I thought you'd have to go to the States to buy it right now.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go there to buy Blender's Mash. I will get bourbon. That's what I will get. That's what it should be. All right, sir. Any last comments before we continue? Oh, I should say what it's like on the ice. Yeah, on ice, it's more sweet, more vanilla, less oak. And, well, the oak comes after. I shouldn't say that. Oak just doesn't come right away. It comes later. And the finish on the palate is, I'm going to say it's sweet and oak, no spice. So no spice with the ice, just the sweetness and just the oak at the end. So this one, sweet to spice, and the spice stays. This is sweet to oak, and the oak stays. I think everyone should do things double-fisted, Blair. It's the way to do it.
I'll do the illusion of double fisting. There we go.
Yeah, that one and that one over there. Perfect. Last comments, kind sir?
Just if you see it, get it. It's a good one.
And do you want to tell them what we're going to drink next week? Bareface, and which finish is it?
The Matsutake.
And that's just available in Alberta. Came out at Wine and Beyond. I just saw it there. You've had it for a while, though.
Yeah.
Ooh, last comments is going to you. You have this available with another bottle.
Oh, yes.
And it's a bourbon bottle as well. Tell us about that. Let's do it.
Yeah, at Okanagan Craft Spirits Distillery put it together a limited edition whiskey for our book. It's called Author's Reserve. It is their bourbon style whiskey that's been finished in a cask season with rum. And it comes, the gift pack comes with a glass. It's really cool.
A glass, a book, and the bottle. And does the bottle actually, I thought the bottle had this in the front as well, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a, it's definitely integrated into the bottle.
Okay. And it's a tall, skinny bottle. Their bourbon's usually kind of short, stubby. Yours is the tall, skinny one's kind of neat. And you have to get it there, though.
Or online. They ship across Canada.
Do it online? Okay. Yeah. And they do ship. They ship anywhere in Canada. But I thought you had to be right there. Good.
No.
Well, Father's Day, get it here in 2 days. Just expedited parcel post. It'll happen.
It's getting tight. I think order it and just have a Father's Day the following weekend as well.
Well, yes. Let's continue it. Plus, it's going to be rainy here for Father's Day, so I need a couple Father's Days to make it all better. Thank you all, and cheers, Slancha. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next Tuesday.